response is Chagim Uzmanim L'Sason. That's what you say during Chol HaMoed. You say Chag Sameach on the first 2 days of Sukkot, and on Shemini Atzeret, and on Simchat Torah. So that's days 1 and 2 and 8 and 9. But on days 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, you say Moadim L'Simcha, which is may these middle days bring you joy. And then the response is Chagim Uzmanim L'Sason, which is part of our liturgy. I invite you to turn to page 142 as we welcome in Shabbat with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruchuni L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rabbi Miriam, would you like to light the candles for us? Page 120. Amen. I'm going to invite you to turn to page 140. This will be kind of a little bit of a learning service also tonight. Just the custom, it's not even a custom, Kabbalat Shabbat, which is the introductory service on Friday nights, which ends with Psalm 93, which is on page 141 in the Mishkan Tefillah prayer books. Kabbalat Shabbat is not done either when Shabbat coincides with a festival or if you're in the middle days of a festival. There's a reason for this. The creation of the preliminary service of Kabbalat Shabbat, welcoming the Sabbath, is to really help us be able to transition from the aggressive nature of the work week into the peacefulness of Shabbat. Kabbalat Shabbat traditionally is done before the sun sets. It's sort of easing us into Shabbat. But because we're in a festival season, in theory, we shouldn't be needing that because it's the time of our joy. We're in a festival now. So we don't do Kabbalat Shabbat. It would be insulting to Sukkot were we to do Kabbalat Shabbat tonight. And God forbid we should insult, Chag Simchatenu. You know what I'm saying? The time of our great joy. So please turn to page 140. We do begin on these evenings with Psalm 92. Mizmor shir liyom hashabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור, מזמור שיר ליום השבת. טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך רנן. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת. טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. We continue 4 lines from the bottom in English. The righteous bloom like a date palm. They thrive like a cedar in Lebanon, planted in the house of Adonai. They flourish in the courts of our God. In old age, they still produce fruit. They are the full sap and freshness, attesting that God Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no flaw. And Psalm 93. Adonai malach geyut lavesh, lavesh, Adonai oz hitazar, haftikon tevel baltimod, nachon kisacha me'az me'olam ata. Nasu naharot Adonai, nasu naharot olam, yisu naharot doch yam, mikolot mayim rabim, adirim mishbarei yam, adir bamarom Adonai, edotecha nemnu meod, levetcha nava kodesh Adonai, leorech yamim. And we continue with the Chatzi Kaddish from Ma'ariv on page 144. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'yalma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'gala. Uvizman kariv vimru amen, yeheshmei rabba mevarach, la'alam la'al me'al maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei kudesha. Barichu leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran b'alma v'meru amen. I invite you to rise for the call to prayer on page 146. Baruchu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam vaed. Please be seated. Well, this is a beautiful reading. Let's actually join me on the top of 147. There is one who sings the song of his own life, finding everything within himself. There is one who leaves the circle of herself and sings the song of her people. There is one whose voice rings with the song of humanity, hoping for the highest perfection. And there is one who rises even higher, uniting with all creatures, with all worlds, filling the universe with song. Nivarech, let us bless. Beautiful. We continue. Join me on the bottom of page 148 for the first blessing before the Shema. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opening the gates, Although enters time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzavaot is your name, ever-living God. May you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamari Varavim. Page 150. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amchavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, B'shachbeinu u'v'kumeinu, Nasiach b'chukecha, V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'v'mitzvotecha, li'olam va'ed. Ki heim chayenu, v'yorech yameinu, v'yorech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam v'layla, v'yahavatecha al tasir mimenu li'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Okay, everybody just take a deep breath. And we're going to, one of the reasons we sit in our Sukkot is to really remind us that we are at one with nature. That the roofs over our heads and the walls and the barriers that we have really separate us, where really there really is a sense and a unification that all matter is one, all spirit is one, and we really find that and celebrate that on Sukkot. So I want to invite you to think about that as you take a breath and we say Shema together. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Please join with me on the top of 154. V'yahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinanatam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha v'derech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'kashartam liot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'v'hisharecha L'man tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihiyot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem. Yes. Turn to page 157, we read at the top. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe that we were taught before we ever stood at Sinai's foot that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, and that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. I invite you to turn to the top of page 158. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh, malchutecha ra'uvanecha, Bokei hayam lifnei Moshe, Zeli anu v'amru, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed, v'ne'emar, Kifad Adonai et Yaakov, uge'alo miyad chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael. Let's read together on page 161, beginning with Give Us a Place. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence our acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace. Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz uvayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash. On 164, we'll do a little, we'll do an Adonai Savatai Tiftach. I want to dedicate this to my friend and colleague Natalie Young, who just lost her father this week. She wrote this beautiful setting. Adonai Svatai Tiftach, Adonai Svatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha, Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. The silent Amidah begins on page 166. This is also a perfect time for you to share what's ever in your heart. Iyu leratzon, imre fi, v'hegyon libi lefanecha, Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, v'goali, iyu leratzon, imre fi, v'hegyon libi lefanecha, Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, v'goali. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, my rock and my redeemer. At this point, we're going to do a Mishaberach Lecholim, a prayer for all those who are ill. I don't have a sheet in front of me, so those of you who are Zoom with us, please write in the chat the people that you're praying for. I'm going to invite the people in our room to share the names of their loved ones for whom they're praying. We have Nancy Pearson. Go ahead. Praying for anybody? Thank you. Thank you. Praying for Cynthia Cohen, and my friend Blossom, Arlene Tilshin, Svi Shostak, Pat Rudden. Please join me on 371 for the Mishberach. Oh, did we have any people who did anyone type in, Miles? I'm sorry. Okay. Misheberach Avotenu Mekor habracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Miriam, I'm going to invite you to pass these out to people. Thank you. So we're in a very, somebody asked the question in a group I was talking to, why are there so many holidays right in a row? It's a great question. And my first answer is that it's the real question is, why Tishrei? Why the 7th month? And just to be clear, in the same way that the 7th day has special status in the week, it's sort of set apart. The 7th month has an incredibly special status, also set apart, and really is so special that it's even considered a different kind of new year. So the Jewish New Year really is not the Jewish New Year. The calendar year begins at Pesach. In Nisan, that's the first month of the year. It says it all over the Torah. It's not even a debate. We know that in the 7th month, which is what we'll read from the second Torah tomorrow, that is Tishrei. That's when the first day is the day of loud blasts. The 10th day is the Day of Atonement. And on the 15th day, we live in huts for whatever. And then the 8th day is a day of stopping. And later it began. And so our entire theology is wrapped up in the two different periods of time. This will be a teaching that I give some other time. I won't do this now. But Pesach is the time of our national sovereignty as a nation. High holidays, including Sukkot, is a time for our spiritual. It's like the political is Passover, the spiritual is now. This is the time where we do, and Passover is also spiritual, and there is an element of, I guess you could say, business even to this time of year because the calendar changes and whatnot. But really, this is where we do the personal cleansing. So both New Years are important and they work in partnership with one another. But what's significant is that we sort of really, we talk about how Yom Kippur is the rehearsal for our own death. And no more do we recognize that than on Sukkot. And part of what we do to memorialize that is on Shabbat, Chol HaMoed, Sukkot, we read from the book of Kohelet, Ecclesiastes. You know that there are 5 Megillot, and they're all read on a special holiday. The book of Esther, Megillat Esther, is read on Purim. And the book of Ruth, Megillat Ruth, is read on Shavuot. Actually, I'll start by the Song of Songs is read on Passover. The book of Ruth is read on Shavuot. The book of Lamentations is read on Tisha B'Av, and the book of Kohelet on Sukkot. And we won't have another Megillah until Purim comes again. That's the cycle. So Miriam is going to join me, and from the Sidur Sim Shalom, this was the conservative Sidur. It has some sort of highlights of wisdom of Ecclesiastes, dealing with what is the meaning of life, or why are we living. That's the light question for this evening. She and I will read this responsively so that everybody has a copy in this room. But then we'll talk about, as you go through this, I want you to identify a line or two that really punches you in the stomach. Like that really goes, oh my gosh, this is so true. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so here you go. Miriam's going to start.
There it is.
Okay.
It takes a while. I'm starting with futility.
Yes, very happy.
Everything starts with futility, right? Futility, utter futility, said Kohelet. What do we gain by all of our toil under the sun?
Generations come and go, but the earth remains the same forever. All streams flow into the sea, but the sea is never full.
What has happened before shall happen again. There is nothing new under the sun.
As wisdom grows, vexation grows. Merriment is futile, and revelry is mad.
Acquiring wealth and possessions is futile. There is no real value under the sun.
The wise and the foolish share the same fate. Both are forgotten. We strive after wind.
For everything there is a season, a time for everything under the sun.
A time to be born and a time to die. A time to laugh and a time to cry.
A time to lose and a time to seek. A time to be silent and a time to speak.
A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace.
God brings about everything in its time. Nothing is added or taken away.
Justice and wickedness are both in the world. Humans and animals share the same fate.
Enjoy your possessions, for that is your portion. Who can foresee what will come?
Both oppressed and oppressors lack comfort. It would be better not to have been born.
Still, two are much better off than one. Should they fall, one can raise the other.
Be not rash with your mouth. Be not hasty to utter a word before God.
For God is in heaven, and you are on earth. Therefore, let your words be few.
When you make a vow to God, do not delay. God has no pleasure in fools. Fulfill whatever you vow.
One who loves money will never be satisfied. A lover of wealth will never have his fill. This too is futility.
As one came out of his mother's womb, so must he depart, naked as he came, with nothing for his toil.
A good name is better than fragrant oil, and the day of death better than the day of birth.
It's better to go to a house of mourning than of feasting, for that is the end of every mortal.
Sometimes the righteous perish in spite of their righteousness. Sometimes the wicked endure in spite of their wickedness.
There's not one righteous person on earth who does only good and never sins.
Sometimes the righteous are repaid like scoundrels, and sometimes scoundrels are repaid like the righteous.
This too is frustration. I therefore commend enjoyment. We have nothing good under the sun but eating, drinking, and enjoyment.
The same fate is in store for everyone, pure and impure, righteous and wicked, the good and the sinners.
Eat your bread in gladness and drink your wine in joy, for God has already approved of your action.
Enjoy life with the woman you love all the fleeting days of your life that has been granted you under the sun.
Do with all your might whatever you're able to do. There's no activity, no thought, no wisdom in Sheol where you are going.
The race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong. Bread is not won by the wise, nor wealth by the intelligent.
Time and chance befall them all.
Cast your
Go ahead, sorry.
Cast your bread upon the waters, for after many days you will find it.
How sweet is the light, how pleasant for eyes to behold the sun.
Rejoice while you are young. Follow your heart's desire, the sight of your eyes.
But know that for all these things, God will call you to account.
Remember your Creator and appreciate life. In the days of your youth, before the days of sorrow come, and years draw near when you will say, I have no pleasure in them.
There is no end to making many books, and much study is a weariness of the flesh.
To sum up the matter, revere God and fulfill his mitzvot.
This applies to all mortals. God will call every creature into account for everything, good or bad.
To sum up the matter, revere God and fulfill his mitzvot, for this applies to all mortals.
So, first of all, interesting. A lot of repetition, which is out throughout the entire book of Kohelet. And they say that the very last chapter was actually added years later. There's nothing about any of the wisdom in Kohelet that's at all Jewish. It's not Jewish. It's just what they would call, wisdom literature. So in order to give it a Jewish spin, there was an addition at the end, which just said, follow Torah and do God's mitzvot, but that was not part of the original document. So just, tell me a line or two that sort of made you go, what? Or totally, you know what I mean? I mean, one that really I think is so interesting and I think is so true is this: one who loves money will never be satisfied. A lover of wealth will never have his fill. And we all know people who just can't. They can't. They'll never acquire enough to fill the hole inside them. I think that is great wisdom.
I find, be not rash with your mouth. Be not hasty to utter a word before God. I find myself to be rash with my mouth. Most times, I try to catch the words as they're coming out. Mm-hmm. And so it's something that I need to pay more attention to, I think.
Many of us, by the way. It's something. Nobody has any reactions. These are such pithy sayings. Did anybody, any of you online? What,
A time to be born and a time to die, a time to laugh and a time to cry.
I mean, absolutely. And they're both going to happen, and they're both part of life. And we should be grateful. You know, I also think it's really, I take issue, a couple things I take issue with, tying into what you said, Lila, when it says that the day of one's death is better than the day of birth. But I disagree. I mean, that to me is silly. You're not, if you're not born, you're not going to die. It's not better. And, you know, and when the day that you're born, your life is so full of potential. Oh.
Pretty soon it'll come on. It's that story of the ship. I know, it's coming. It takes a while for it to click on once it's there. Yeah, sure. It's the story of the ship where everybody is cheering as the ship leaves, but nobody cheers when it comes back.
Of course.
And it's like a person who is born, we don't know what they will accomplish. We cheer when a child is born, and we mourn when a person dies, where it should really be the opposite, because we know what that person has accomplished in their lifetime, and that's worth celebrating.
Or couldn't you say it's wonderful to cheer both the
Yes.
entrance and the exit?
Yes.
I think that's really, you know, there's nothing more miraculous than new life coming into the world. There's another thing that I think is really fascinating here. This statement at the beginning, towards the front, where it says, "As wisdom." So these lines, there's 12 chapters. Kohelet's long; it's a long book, but these lines are like sort of like the highlights. And as wisdom grows, vexation grows. And you know, it's true that sometimes the more you know, like it's easier to stick your head in the sand and just sort of live day to day. I mean, people who really know what's happening to this world with global warming, it's hard to be, you know, that's just an example or whatever. When you know what's coming, it's the more knowledge you have, sometimes that can really eat you up inside. There has to be, I think, a balance between completely sticking your head in the ground and knowing so much that you actually can't sleep at night, and you know, you expedite your own demise. Anyway,
I guess that's why ignorance is bliss.
that's, I mean, all of those cliches, many of them are present in all the wisdom literature that we have, including Ben Sirach and so many other things. Anyway, I'm glad we had a chance to look at Ecclesiastes. You can if you want to read the whole book, I mean, everything's online. You just put Sepharia Ecclesiastes or Sepharia Kohelet, and it'll all come up. Or you can find great commentaries on it. And, you know, there's just so many wonderful things to study. And I guess my wish for all of us as we enter this new year, we're in a new year of learning, and we're about to conclude the Torah, finish reading the Torah on Tuesday. We'll have Simchat Torah. I know you're going to celebrate it here on Sunday night, but Simchat Torah is Tuesday. I'll say two things. If you want to experience the very meaningful holiday of Shemini Atzeret, and I'll tell you a joke about Shemini Atzeret in 1 second, come join me at Temple Beth Emet on Monday. I'll be wearing my kittel and whatever, and I'll be doing the special Kaddish for Geshem. I'll give you a hint. It goes like this. You only hear this once a year. Yeit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah. Amen. Anyway, it's fantastic. So come here, Geshem, at Temple Beth Emet, and then if you want to come dance with the Torah, I'll be in Long Beach, but they'll also be dancing with the Torah on Tuesday at Temple Beth Emet, Hakafah and Aliyah for everyone. And of course, don't miss being at Temple Beth Tikvah on Sunday night as well. 5 o'clock dinner, pasta, yum. Pasta dinner in the sukkah. And that's sort of the last night that we eat in the sukkah, and then we're gonna open the whole Torah, and we're gonna dance with the Torah, and everybody's gonna have an aliyah. There's an aliyah for sisterhood. There's an aliyah for people who've been members of TBT for more than 25 years. There's an aliyah for people. Oh, we had some great ones. For men's club, we have an aliyah for families, TBT families with children in any of our programs. I could go on. Oh, we have an Aliyah for clergy and staff. Did you know that, Miriam?
Yes.
Oh, well, Miriam did know that. Well, then there you go. All right. What's now? Okay. So I want to invite everybody to rise for Aleinu, and I'm going to find the page. 586. Thank you. I'm still getting to know this book. Please forgive me. Okay, but first, our leader, Lila, is going to open the ark. Beautiful, thank you. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzot, velo samanu kamishbechot hadama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Top of 588. שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים הוא אלוהינו אין עוד אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו כך כתוב בתורתו וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל והארץ מתחת אין עוד ותקנו לנו במלכות שדי וכל בני בשר ישמעך הארץ. We continue on page 591. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. Thank you. You may be seated. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody who's joined us online on Zoom. You're helping us make a minyan tonight, which is really important. It's nice to have a minyan. And there's a beautiful reading on page 593. I'll just read it, and then I want to invite everybody who is remembering someone tonight, whether it's because you have newly lost somebody or are in your first 30 days of mourning or in your first year or observing a yard site. We want to know your names, and if you're online, please type in the chat and Miles will read them. In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision and grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death, all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love are we comforted. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. This congregation remembers the following people: Sal Duman, Ellie Gold, Mary Edmonds, Solomon Levy, Helene Levy, Eric Kaufman, Alfred Kaufman, Ottilie Kaufman, Bernard Northcutt, Leonard Bloom, Grace Gottlieb, Ida Weiser.
It's next week.
Okay. Anita Monick, Bill Weiser, Edward Rubin, Esther Asa, Jim Shasa, Allison Gardner, Fanny Kleitz, Abraham Silverstein, Helen Sharps.
You're going into the next week's.
Oh, sorry. Okay. No, I'm still in this week. Okay. Maybe Helen bled into the next week. Anyway, are there other people that should be mentioned that were not on this list? Well, I'm just remembering a woman whose funeral I did, was it yesterday or 2 days ago?
Wednesday.
Doris Glasser, and I'm also remembering my Uncle Morris Katz. So I invite all those who are saying Kaddish to rise as we remember them, as we honor the memories of our loved ones on page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah v'alma divrach yerutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael v'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'almei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudesha barechu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Well, thank you, everybody. We're going to make Kiddush now. Turn to page 122. And there's lots of cups of wine for very few people, so we can save some of these for tomorrow.
Want me to help you?
Around to that side.
This is a grape juice. I'm a grape juice, okay.
It's okay.
Tony, Rabbi.
Thank. Oh, I'll do this. Okay, here we go. Vayhi erev vayhi voker yom hashishi vayechulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tevam vayechal Elohim bayom hashvi melachto asher asa vayishbot bayom hashvi mikol melachto asher asa vayevarech Elohim et yom hashvi vayikadesh oto ki hivo shavat mikol melachto asher bara Elohim lasot. Savri chaverai Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'yahava u'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'mahaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzrayim kivanu v'charta v'yotanu kidashta mikol hamim V'Shabbat kodshecha, b'yahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh haShabbat. Chaim. Normally we would be doing this in the sukkah, but we're going to go make motzi together in the sukkah, and we'll bring all of you who are on Zoom with us. I want to, we're going to close our ark. Miriam, do we have any announcements? Oh, yes, a couple of nice things coming up. In a month, we're hosting for the community a very important production by an Israeli actress called Flowers Aren't Enough. It was originally written in Hebrew when she was in Israel, and it was she's American born, so she translated into English. Public television actually recorded her doing it, and it deals with, it's a one-woman show on domestic violence, but it's beautifully done, and it really captures how all communities are at risk. This is really, and her the performance is beautiful and award-winning. So I hope you'll join us here on November 19th, and on November 20th we are hosting an interfaith Thanksgiving concert and service with the United Methodist Churches of Anaheim and Fullerton, and with Temple Beth in Anaheim also. That'll be at 4 o'clock, so I hope you'll join us. And do you want to pick a closing song? Oh, we're going to do Psalm. We're going to close with these Psalms on the Day of Awe. So Miriam, if you can pass this out. We stopped saying this on Sunday. We've been saying it since the beginning of Elul, and this is my favorite psalm. And it was not included in Mishkan Tefillah, so I gave it to you from the Sim Shalom.
It's the same thing we have.
It's different. So and Sunday is Hoshana Rabbah. So every day of Sukkot when you daven in the morning, you take your lulav and the etrog and you parade around the sanctuary saying all these Hoshana, save us, save us, save us. And there's different piyutim, different pieces of poetry when we say save us. But Hoshana Rabbah on Sunday, we're going to make that circle 7 times. And at the end, we're going to beat our willows on the ground. And then we're done with our lulavim and etrogim. And so that's also an incredibly great service. I think the only congregation that really does it is right now, my congregation used to do, but is Beth Jacob in Irvine. But here we go. Please join me on, we'll read together in English. A Psalm of David. The Lord is my light and my help. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Whom shall I dread? When evildoers draw near to slander me, when foes threaten, they stumble and fall. Though armies be arrayed against me, I will have no fear. Though wars threaten, I remain steadfast in my faith. One thing I ask of the Lord, for this I yearn, to dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold his beauty, to pray in his sanctuary. He will hide me in his shrine, safe from peril. He will shelter me beyond the reach of disaster. He will raise my head high above my enemies. I will bring him offerings with shouts of joy, singing, chanting praise to the Lord. O Lord, hear my voice when I call. Be gracious to me and answer. It is you that I seek, says my heart. It is your presence that I seek, O Lord. Hide not from me. Reject not your servant. You have always been my help. Do not abandon me. Forsake me not, my God of deliverance. Though my father and my mother leave me, the Lord will care for me. Teach me your way, O Lord. Guide me on the right path to confound my oppressors. Abandon me not to the will of my foes. False witnesses have risen against me, people who breathe out lies. Mine is the faith that I surely shall see the Lord's goodness in the land of the living. Hope in the Lord and be strong. Take courage, hope in the Lord. Luhulehem ati lerot betuv Adonai be'eretz chayim Kahave el Adonai chazak v'yametz libecha, v'kaveh el Adonai. And we're going to conclude tonight with V'samachta bechagecha. You shall be rejoicing in your festivals. V'samachta bechagecha v'hayita ach sameach. V'samachta bechagecha v'hayita ach sameach. V'samachta bechagecha v'hayita ach sameach. Do you guys know that? You guys don't know this? You're really okay. So I forget. Well, we were singing. So Gabby and I are singing it at Simchas Torah. So I thought it was irregular. So it goes like this. You need to know it because you need to sing it with gusto on Sunday. V'samachta bechagecha. Okay, those are two words. Say it with me. V'samachta bechagecha. You will be joyous in your holiday. V'hayita ach sameach. And you will be totally happy. It's about happiness. So here's how it goes. V'samachta bechagecha. Let's do that together. V'samachta bechagecha. Again. V'samachta bechagecha. Next line. V'hayita ach sameach. V'hayita ach sameach. Well, let's do that whole thing together. V'samachta bechagecha v'hayita ach sameach. Again. V'samachta bechagecha v'hayita ach sameach. Next part, same words. Listen to this, a little Arabic. V'samachta bechagecha. Let's try that. V'samachta bechagecha. Together. V'samachta bechagecha. One more time. V'samachta bechagecha. Simple. V'hayita ach sameach. Together. V'hayita ach sameach. Let's do it again. V'samachta bechagecha v'hayita ach sameach. One more time. V'samachta bechagecha. Now it goes down. V'hayita ach sameach. V'samachta bechagecha 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 v'hayita ach sameach. And with that, I wish you a Chag Sameach. Good. Now you're going to really dance with that one on Erev Simchas Torah. Thank you again, Gabriel and Carolyn and Jean, who joined. I'm so happy you did. Thank you. And to our tech crew, thank you. And